Cayman presents
The Business Buzz, an insightful and fresh take on a variety of issues that impact the local business environment. This is where we address the business topics that matter.
Bringing Cayman's Business Buzz.
Here's your host,
Anita Khan.
Good morning and welcome to Radio Cayman's Business Buzz. This is the Thursday edition of the Business Buzz, and I am Anita Khan. And in this program, we will be discussing in-depth cybersecurity for your business. And we're pleased to have in the studio this morning our guest, Ms. Polly Pickering. She is the Managing Director of eSure Limited. Good morning, Polly.
Good morning,
Can
Anita.
I call you Polly? Polly, then Miss Pickering?
Polly is fine.
Polly's
Thank
fine.
you. Great to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming in this early. Did you have to fight traffic by any chance?
I did. But, it wasn't as bad. I think next week when school's out, we'll have a little bit of a reprieve for a couple weeks.
And next time you come back, we'll have coffee for you.
Oh, yes, please.
I want to say good morning to all our listeners and YouTube viewers. Also to our producer, Miss Susan Watson. Susan is in the next studio, controlling the board, the cameras, the door, the dog. We've got a cat. No, just kidding. She controls everything this morning. Thank you, Susan. And thanks to our sponsors, Cayman Insurance Center, Health City, Cayman Islands, and of course, Cayman Medical Supplies. Thank you for your kind and proud sponsorship of the Business Buzz on this day. Now, Polly, can you share some information on your company, eSure Limited, and its primary focus?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm here today from eSure, which has been around since 2005, but also I'm here today as a digital steering committee member for Digital Cayman, and we have a cybersecurity subcommittee. So it's great to know that it's not just the local businesses that are addressing cybersecurity, but we now have some fantastic private public sector commissions that have been put together. So eSure started with disaster recovery, which is appropriate because we're in June. But we found that, yes, but we're not just preventing disasters anymore from just hurricanes and earthquakes. And unfortunately, the world has changed where so many disasters are cyber attacks.
Mm-hmm. And we're seeing that every day. Now, so what's your primary focus?
Basically, our motto is protecting the things that matter. And that means companies' businesses, their digital assets, educating their employees about how to protect themselves from different disastrous events, whether it be forgetting to back up a computer or letting malware onto a computer, but also protecting the things that matter. And I'll talk a little bit about education and SciKids, which is where we think hopefully a lot of the safety starts at home.
This is something I don't want to think about at all. Cybersecurity. I just use my smartphone. I use my laptop. I use my desktop. I just go about using stuff. And we were talking about like my Fitbit. I just use it. It's connected to about everything else in my life. But it's something we don't think about. So this morning we're going to pay attention. I am going to pay attention, Paul.
Well, Susan gave us looks like a midterm exam here. So I don't think we're going to get through this whole bit, because if we did, this would be an associate's degree in cybersecurity, Susan. So
I agree.
I have to say, I looked at this a couple days ago and went, wow, I had to go and bone up on some of it myself. So thank you for the challenge.
So what do you think she does to me when this happens?
I know.
I sit here and I'm thinking, Polly better come good this morning.
Well, your listeners have a lot of great advice ahead of them.
Well, we're looking forward to this, Polly. So exactly what is cybersecurity?
Well, cybersecurity is basically just monitoring and taking care and protecting any systems and networks from information disclosure or theft or damage to any hardware or electronic data, anything that could be considered a misdirection or interruption of service. So that's cybersecurity. It has a lot of different areas, and like you mentioned, your Fitbit, your phone, your web browsing, we're all connected now. So cybersecurity affects everything we do with all the information we touch.
Plus your bank, you pay bills online.
Yes.
From your smartphone. And your entire life works from your smartphone. Most of us.
We're all digitally connected. Having the little curly Q phone cords and things are a thing of the past. Everything's Wi-Fi now, so
Yes.
A lot of things are out there in the wild, and there's a lot of risks that come from being so convenient and so connected.
So, what are some of the business types of businesses are most at risk for a cyber attack, Polly?
Well, I think everyone probably would think the Fortune 500, right? The big companies, the big banks. But I think what they don't understand is what we believe is the 5 industries that are most at risk are actually, number 1 is small business. Number 2 would be healthcare institutions, followed by government agencies, energy companies, and then higher education facilities. But what really surprises me in that statistic is small businesses. And obviously the larger businesses probably have the larger budgets and the larger teams and the larger understanding. So it really is what probably keeps me up at night is knowing that it's the small businesses that are most vulnerable.
No, why would that be, Joe? I mean,
well, think about it. We're dealing with bad guys. So these are criminals. In the Wild Wild West, the criminals rode horseback onto trains and they knocked over the little old ladies and guys for their pockets of gold. They took the most vulnerable. So if the most vulnerable happens to be our small business community, then that is just the low-hanging fruit, unfortunately.
I could see it now. How about those educational institutions?
Well, the interesting thing about that is there are a lot of government, like just recently in the United States passed a cybersecurity mandate. Joe Biden got it through Congress, and now it's actually becoming part of a business fabric. Here in the Cayman Islands, we now have the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority has come up with cybersecurity guidance notes, and it's become part of the audit framework. So it's becoming more of day-to-day requirements that businesses, just like a couple years ago, 15, 16 years ago, we all had to put, after Hurricane Ivan, we had to put disaster recovery plans into our businesses to get proper insurance or to be regulated if we're a financial institution. So those mandates are helping to protect us. But I think what's really unusual is the year 2020 and COVID was like no other, right? No one was expecting this pandemic to come. And here we are. Could you imagine if we wouldn't have been connected?
I can't even think about it.
Exactly. I actually work with Zoom as a software now as in my business, not just using it, but reselling it. And I think, wow, I wish I would have bought shares in that company about 5 years ago. But, 2020 was really unusual because it's how people change how they interact. And for businesses and social, we had to do a lot of things, not just social distancing, but we all went to a remote workforce. And I was joking the other day with my team, it was like we had a couple hundred businesses that we took care of and their networks and their employees. But as soon as everybody went remote, that was another network. So we had tens of thousands of little remote networks. And one of the most interesting facts that I found preparing for Susan's midterm exam here today was in a recent study, they found 20% of companies surveyed found they had a security breach as a result to a remote worker. Wow. And if you think about how we all went to work from home, that means 1 in 5. And that's just, that's just an epidemic of its own, isn't it?
Yeah. And jumping ahead, Polly. Now, take for instance, suppose at Radio Cayman we were hacked. Are we supposed to let the public know that we have been hacked?
Well, you're not a regulated business, so I mean, you would have to look to see what your policies are. But the first thing you do is report the crime. So you should call the police, and you should probably report it being a government related authority. You should report it to the Financial Crimes Unit as well. But the number one thing you would do is, check to see if it really is a hack. What are the symptoms? And then what you would probably do is run through disconnecting your internet, disable your remote access, maintain any of your firewall settings, don't change anything. And then you would probably ask your users to all immediate change their passwords. And then call in the experts. You call in the forensics expert.
Call Polly.
No, well, you can call me, and I can direct you to some of the really good white hat guys who do this stuff on and off island. But the number one thing is to not panic. And I think a lot of people probably wouldn't make it a public announcement until they knew exactly the extent of it.
Okay. And then some damage control.
damage control and reporting it to the authorities.
Okay. Now, what's one of the biggest cybersecurity challenges businesses face? And are organizations doing enough to combat cyber threat?
So that's a great two-part question. So the number one thing people face is education. It's really hard to mitigate ignorance. And I think the biggest challenge is people have a misunderstanding that because they have paid for software or they have an IT department, that there's a false sense of security. So I think the number one issue with businesses is they have to realize it's everyone's responsibility. Mm-hmm. Ironically, they say one of the things that's most effective are notices and visual posters in the lunchroom and reminding people of tips, because it's your human firewall. It's the people in your business that will keep things safe. Most networks will have enough penetration preventing devices and things. It's the people that get socially engineered or aren't aware or click when they shouldn't click.
Click, right.
So I think the number one part of your question is awareness and
Education.
then obviously the other thing to do is to do audits and to really recognize where your gaps are.
Okay. Now, ransomware. It seems to be the most concerning cyber threat right now. We're going to take a quick break, Polly, and when we come back, I'll ask you to explain what it is and how businesses can keep their companies safe. Thanks to our sponsors this morning, Cayman Insurance Center, Health City Cayman Islands, and Cayman Medical Supplies. You're listening to The Business Buzz. Your host, Anita Khan, and in the studio, we have Miss Polly Pickering. Polly is, of course, the manager and managing director of eSure Limited.
Health City is now open at Camana Bay, offering a wide range of specialties at our state-of-the-art Camana Bay Clinic. We are here to help you save time and feel better. We are open weekdays, weekends, and evenings for your convenience and are dedicated to reducing your wait time while improving your health. Friendly staff, expert care, lab services, and diagnostics in one convenient location from the hospital you know and trust. Health City at Camana Bay, within your reach.
Oh gosh.
Don't let the stress of taking care of loved ones get you down.
Home care, now made easier with Cayman Medical Supplies. 100% Caymanian owned. Cayman Medical Supplies now stocks a wide range of home care supplies. Hospital beds, all types of wheelchairs, including beach access wheelchairs, lifts, commodes, shower chairs, walkers, Curad brand orthopedic supplies. Free blood glucose monitors with the purchase of 1 pack of test strips, blue underpads, and a whole lot more.
Need home care convenience? Drop by Cayman Medical Supplies at 93 Smith Road, Windward Center, or call 949-6211. Free delivery.
Open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Still delivering island-wide for your convenience.
2020, unprecedented times, uncertainty, and literally a new way of life.
Life happens, usually without warning.
That is why making sure that your family is insured is so important.
Cayman Insurance Center, 47 years strong, working to protect your family and your most valuable assets.
Whether you need to get a quote, renew a policy, or file a claim, Cayman Insurance Center is here to protect you and your family.
For more information, call 949-4657. Cayman Insurance Center, specializing in property, life, health, motor, and other lines of insurance products and services at affordable rates.
Cybercrime happens online or through the technology we use every day. Anyone can be a victim of cybercrime, whether you are a young person being bullied or harassed online, or an older person or business who's been scammed out of money or personal data. Cybercrime is an issue that touches all of us. The Cayman Islands government has therefore created an online resource to help keep you cyber safe in an ever-changing world.
In online situations, it is better to be cyber safe than sorry. Learn now to protect yourself against cybercrime. Visit gov.ky/cybersafe.
Business Buzz. Business Buzz with your host, Anita Khan.
Good morning and welcome back to the Business Buzz. In the studio this morning, we're speaking to Miss Polly Pickering. Polly is a managing director of eSure Limited. Good morning again, Polly.
Hi, Anita. Thanks again.
I am learning so much. Every time I come on this program and I sit here in this chair, I learn a whole lot. new, different stuff right here. No, we were talking about ransomware. Okay. It's the most concerning cyber threat right now, would you say?
Yes. I mean, ransomware, it's a type of malware that is very prevalent. It's basically just crypto viruses, and they go onto people's devices, not just their computers, but I just said the other day, my iPhone got a calendar notice that was obviously a piece of malware. And basically what happens is it threatens to publish a victim's personal information or block access to things until a ransom is paid. And one of the biggest problems with it is a lot of people won't know, what the compelling thing is. They'll want to click to do something to get rid of it, and that could actually be setting off a little chain reaction.
You just want to see what it is.
Yes.
Or you want to make sure it's not.
Yes.
Right.
So that's the first thing, you have to do is really be able to just know that the first thing you do is, again, like I mentioned, disconnect your internet connection and, change your password, and then try and get a hold of someone who can help you take the right diagnosis. Just like going to your doctor, you wouldn't walk in there with your own, results. You'd want to
Googled
talk to
WebMD. That happens, No, how can company? Well, you did mention how we can keep safe, but what steps can businesses take to make their companies less of a target of ransomware?
Well, right after the first thing, which is awareness and education, being able to identify what's slowing a computer down. Are you infected? But also knowing what does a ransomware attack look like. They usually come from something called phishing. And I wish it was north-sound phishing, but it's not north-sound phishing. It's out there fishing for people to take the bait, which is to click on something. And so the number one thing a business could do is put in place a good email gateway, so that gateway, that technology service, does that filtering, casts that net for them, keeps those fish out. But also, there's different gateway services, but there's also then, application protocols that can be integrated, or APIs. So you can layer software on. So that's probably the first thing, is to look at a good hygiene. Back to the doctor. Get to the right hygiene, keep things clean, and then that's probably the best way to prevent malware.
So what does eSure's IT and cybersecurity services consist of?
Well, again, we started after Hurricane Ivan. Actually, been around quite a bit before that, doing all kinds of things like payment gateways and such. But we really got into protecting the things that matter. So disaster recovery, making prevention part of the process, because recovery and mitigating things after the fact, that's hard and it's expensive. Whereas if people would focus a little bit more on preparation and process. So I think that's really the difference that eSure does. We don't really do a lot of the maintenance at people's buildings. We work with probably most of the IT companies on the island. We work with a lot of the consulting firms, but we're really more about layers of software prevention and awareness.
Okay. On your website, you have web security platform. What does it provide?
So that's a great question. So, for example, a lot of the cyber threats that are out there right now can be browser-based. I work with Ryan Watson, who's on the Digital Cayman Steering Committee as well, and he's on the Cybersecurity Subcommittee, and he's one of the chief officers at a company called Brave. And, it's a funny story, but my husband came to me as we were buying a new school laptop for my son, and he said, we're going to be installing Brave browser as the safety, the least dangerous browser for our son. And Brave is a security browser with built-in rewards, but it also has anti-phishing, anti-malware protection built in. And what was really funny is I hadn't heard about Brave until my husband told me, put it on our son's laptop. And now my son's always bugging me to get more stickers from Ryan because he thinks Brave's very cool. And Brave actually has its office in Cayman Enterprise City here. So it's really great that a globally recognized security browser has these fantastic ties, and that we get to work with somebody like Ryan here in Cayman.
How old is your son?
13.
13.
Yeah, that
Right
very
age.
dangerous digital age.
Yes, I was going to say. Now, does eSure Limited offer any security assessment for companies?
Yes, we do. We work with some of the top global names that people would expect. And there's some folks out there that can do just a free assessment. People can just have an intrusion detection prevention test, and they can decide, do they want it to be really invasive, where people can actually get in and try and trick your CEOs or your staff, or do you really just want it to be a technical assessment and try and find out where some of the vulnerabilities are? So having some type of understanding of where you're at and your security maturity, if you would, is a great first way to start.
Now, okay, so I have a desktop at home, right? Is it really necessary for me to have any kind of protection, cyber protection?
Yes. And a lot of times I say to people is, when you buy that laptop on Island or you buy it up at Best Buy or whatever, you don't normally trust the protection that comes right out of the box from Microsoft, right? Most people go online and download a free antivirus. They know. I mean, every generation is aware of what a virus would be on a computer. So everyone started to do those first steps. Make sure I've got an antivirus. Second step, let's make sure I have a backup. If this thing, somebody spills a cup of coffee on it, I'd like those pictures and those files back, please. So very basic stuff. Install some antivirus, have a good backup. But then look to things for a more secure browser. Look to see what you can do for your web filtering. Look at that mobile device. That a lot of people don't think the mobile device management is something that they need to be concerned about. So yeah, unfortunately, the safety does start at home because you're all now part of our networks. You walk in the front door, bring in your own device, and you bring with you any of the potential infections as well.
Do you offer security assessments for homes?
Not necessarily for homes, but we do a lot of free seminars, and we also have a conference in October that we invite the public to, and that we do offer a lot of safety. I'm actually one of the founding members of a program called SciKids, and we're working with some of the government agencies as well, both the RCIPS and OFRAG, and great to hear the government now has its new gov.ky cyber safety site as well. But that is really what I would recommend for people for protecting themselves at home, is reach out. There's a lot of free information out there, and do a little self-education.
Self-education. I need some of that. Now, let's pretend we're the doctor here. What are some common types and symptoms of computer viruses?
Well, I think you'll find that one of the first things you'll find is if you have a virus, either you're going to have a ransomware and something's going to come up and lock your screen and tell you that you need to do something in order to get the ransom paid and you'll get your data back. Or it's going to be something that's actually encrypted all of your data, not just locking the screen. So if you're at that point, you're actually under a ransomware attack. And, you have two choices. You can delete your computer, go get your backup and start over, or you can pay the ransom, which we'll put a little pin in that because there's some legal implications. But the other thing is it could just be your computer slowing down, or maybe you're seeing a lot of unusual pop-ups. Or maybe you're seeing something that's asking you to change your password, but it's unexpected. So a lot of times we say to people, ask yourself some basic questions. Is this emotional? Is it asking me something that's emotional? Is it unexpected? Is it from what I thought was a trusted source? And in which case it may be a spoof. It might be your bank pretending to be your bank. It might be your son's school pretending to send you a permission slip form. So you need to look at the timing of them, the action that it's calling for, and then see how you can verify it. I did it just the other day. I got something that was legitimate, but it sent it to an email address that I no longer use. So I called my bank and said, I haven't been that since my, maiden days. But it was also an email address that I had used, I think, pre-Hurricane Ivan. So I was very concerned. And when I spoke to the bank, obviously they just had picked an old email address and we sorted it out. But nothing wrong with verifying before you click.
Wow, I'm going to look at it. Just from today, I'm going to look at every email that comes in. Well, we have government. Their IT department does a great job.
They do, and I think that's one of the things you have to, you have to have some faith in the folks who are doing things for you. And the government, I happen to know because I work with a lot of the entities, they have something called a URL, or that website address, rewrite. So they're looking at all of those things that are hidden in your email. And for the most part, they'll try and catch all of them. But there's something, called a 0 day. There's things that are coming out that the software that we all employ is not up to date enough on. There's things that are coming out that somebody has to be victim 0 before other people can patch
Victim
it.
0. Okay.
Yeah.
Paulie, we're going to take a break. You'll join it. You're listening to the Business Buzz. Our guest in the studio this morning is Ms. Polly Pickering, and Polly is the managing director of eSure Limited, and I'm learning so much about cybersecurity and the whole 9 yards, and hopefully you're learning as well.
2020, unprecedented times, uncertainty, and literally a new way of life.
Life happens, usually without warning.
That is why making sure that your family is insured is so important.
Cayman Insurance Center, 47 years strong, working to protect your family and your most valuable assets.
Whether you need to get a quote, renew a policy, or file a claim, Cayman Insurance Center is here to protect you and your family.
For more information, call 949-4657. Cayman Insurance Center, specializing in property, life, health, motor, and other lines of insurance products and services at affordable rates.
Oh gosh.
Don't let the stress of taking care of loved ones get you down.
Home care, now made easier with Cayman Medical Supplies. 100% Caymanian owned. Cayman Medical Supplies now stocks a wide range of home care supplies. Hospital beds, all types of wheelchairs, including beach access wheelchairs, lifts, commodes, shower chairs, walkers, Curad brand orthopedic supplies. Free blood glucose monitors with the purchase of 1 pack of test strips, blue underpads, and a whole lot more.
Need home care convenience? Drop by Cayman Medical Supplies at 93 Smith Road, Windward Center, or call 949-6211. Free delivery.
Open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Still delivering island-wide for your convenience.
Health City is now open at Cayman Bay, offering a wide range of specialties at our state-of-the-art Cayman Bay Clinic. We are here to help you save time and feel better. We are open weekdays, weekends, and evenings for your convenience, and are dedicated to reducing your wait time while improving your health. Friendly staff, expert care, lab services, and diagnostics in one convenient location from the hospital you know and trust. Health City at Cayman Bay, within your reach.
Radio Cayman, your #1 community station, would like to remind you that we are in the hurricane season, and in order to survive a hurricane, you need to be prepared. If officials' sources say a hurricane is imminent, please board up or shutter up windows in your home or place of business. Remember to use good lumber, as makeshift boarding may actually cause more damage. Also put strong bracing on outside doors so that they are not blown off or blown in.
This hurricane advice was brought to you by Radio Cayman, your caring community radio station.
Business Buzz. Business Buzz with your host, Anita Khan.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz. Good morning. In the studio, Ms. Polly Pickering. Polly is the managing director of eSure Limited. There's Caribbean of eSure Limited. Do you still use that, Polly?
We've gone quite global, and the data centers we work with are in the Channel Islands. So I think eSure has just become a global company. We're happy to be here in Cayman for the last 20 years, but thanks to the internet and the cyber world, we go wherever the data goes.
That's right. No, explain a little bit on phishing scams, what it is, how it's done. And you did mention ransomware and how you pay back.
During the break, Anita, we were talking about how people get spoofed. And people are basically, their identities are taken, and someone pretends to be them, and they send an email to someone as a trusted source. Or you mentioned those, unfortunately, those Nigerian phishing scams. And why are they still out there? People know they're a joke. Well, because they cast the net and they hope that whether they're using your legitimate name or someone else's, pretending to be you, or having that emotional cry to help someone, that occasionally you'll find someone who is, unfortunately irresponsible, and they click and they go through the process, and then they get to the point of paying a ransom. And that ransom can be paid in a Bitcoin. Recently we saw one where the hacker was asking for Apple ID or Apple cards, Apple Pay. So, the problem is it's become big business. These hackers will carry on trying different methods because it's lucrative for them.
It's sad. It's sad. So now, what is the importance of keeping your software updated?
Well, that's just, again, good hygiene. It's a matter of, the companies that you trust, that you buy your subscriptions from, they have a responsibility to do their best to be your front guard for all of these cyber. So if you're not updating your software, you're not getting the benefit of what they're paying for. So I think updating is key.
Updating is key. Now, let's go to strong passwords. Are strong passwords critical?
They are, and there's a few different theories now. A lot of folks, say it's good health again to change your password every 60 to 90 days. It should always be a minimum of 8 characters. If you want to be super safe, you can go to 14 or above. I personally am at like 21 and above, and it should be a unique phrase, not something in a book that a bot or some kind of library of hacking, Mary had a little lamb isn't going to cut it.
No.
But it should be something very unique. It could be something to do with something you did as a youth, or a phrase, my first boat was a tiller something. The thing is, it needs to be unique to you. And then we also recommend having a password safe. There's a lot of them are free. And you can download them. I use LastPass. And that way, it keeps your passwords for all the different things, and you only have to remember one master password. But passwords are really important. Keeping them, protecting them, changing them, making them very unique and long. And the number one thing is, if those passwords are violated, you need to make sure that it's changed before you can be the victim of a spoof and someone now logs in and pretends to be you.
No. I've been spoofed before, but I didn't pay anything. No, because you have people who get on there and they're like, want to be your friend, and I've had someone ask me about this again. They wanted money. At the end of the day, they're like, okay, they're going to come to Cayman and meet them, and they want money to buy a ticket. And,
oh, yeah.
And she sent, poor thing, she sent the money off and never heard from the person again. Anyway.
Yeah, and so that's just a great example of a typical scam that used to be, back in the days, it was a letter scam or a phone call scam. So it's just fraud. But it's interesting you talk about the legalities of it. We were chatting on the break. Do you pay a ransom? Do you report it? And that can be one of the biggest issues. Is I don't think people realize that cybercrime is unique. It's one of the first times a crime in which the action of being a part of a crime, the victim falls to be an accomplice. Because by you paying the ransom and those proceeds, though that payment now becomes part of a criminal ring. So you yourself might be victim of being a proceeds of criminal crime. So you're perpetrating it. So the ransom you're paying is actually part of the crime.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, so now it becomes we need to get a lawyer on the show to talk to us about the legalities of paying ransoms.
Wow. No, you did mention before some tips that you can offer. Just in case you're a business and you're a victim of cyber attack, you want to reiterate those tips, Molly?
Yeah, so I think the number one thing, because we find that 90% of these hacks start with an email, and email is what eSure does. It's what we have pretty much been known to do, is to help people protect the things that matter, and we all do too much email. So the first thing I would say is to get a really good secure email gateway or an inexpensive application that you can layer on your email. And that means G Suite. That means Google. That means, even candw.ky that's still out there. It's not just for businesses. You can protect your email. So that's the number one funnel that bad things come in. Then I would say mobile device protection. Download a free antivirus onto your mobile device. Get a good cleaner. Double check the credentials to make sure that it's not a fraudulent site. Defend your web surfing. Look at what's going on in your house, with your children's and your users and the people who are on your network. But defend your web surfing, secure web gateways, monitor your stuff. Keep an eye on it. Know a little bit more. Do some education. Back up your key systems, and I think the number one thing to do is just realize that this is now everybody's responsibility. You can't outsource it. You can't, unfortunately, hope is not a strategy. We can't just rely on the other folks to take care of us.
Just educate yourself and be aware.
That's probably the best tips. Educate.
Now, hurricane season is here, and we know that. We're smack in June, almost the end of June. Polly, what's the importance of companies protecting their data in the event of a natural disaster? And how can eSure help in this regard?
Well, it's super important. I mean, we did find, and this is still a statistic, that 46% of all businesses that have an event, disaster, don't recover. And that could be a hurricane or an earthquake or a cyber attack. So, we've seen a lot of businesses not survive COVID, not just due to financial, but because they were victims. It was 60% increase during 2020 in cyber attacks. Wow. $6 trillion is out there in damages or ransoms paid in 2020 alone. So, we look at that, and as we get ready for hurricane season, I'd say to people, back up. You mentioned your home again. I use Carbonite. It's an open text company. They have a free version for home. Back up your laptops. For your business, there's a business Carbonite. For high availability, a lot of the businesses on the island, including eShore, we use something called Zerto. So you can have something ready or roll back from something bad like a ransom in a matter of minutes. So, there's tools out there. I think people just have to ask, see what's in your budget. There's a lot that's open source and free. And again, it's just taking the time before the storm comes to get ourselves a bit ready.
Or any other natural disaster. Now, cybersecurity education initiatives, both your companies are involved in. Are they geared towards the youth? No, we spoke about, was it Brave?
Yeah, so Brave, right. That's great. Fantastic software that is out there that I recommend for everybody's kid's laptop. But thanks for asking. There are some cybersecurity initiatives, like I mentioned, both with the government. I'm very proud that Digital Cayman is now sponsoring CyKids. That's CYKIDS.KY. And that's a new program that is taking on hard issues about cybersecurity and the way we keep families safe. And the first priority is awareness, again, this education. And topics like use of healthy devices, how to use devices healthy, and how Cayman's network needs to improve. And that's, again, where Digital Cayman comes in to talk about how we're all together as an innovative community. But CyKids uses in-person events, or what we call IRL, in real life. And we do events to get kids together, which also helps with preventing cyberbullying. It's really hard for kids to get that kind of animosity when they all spend time together. And the idea is they should be the ambassadors. They should bring the information home to their parents. Because we all know the kids are smarter than us anyhow, right? So if you ever have a problem with the device,
grandkids are smarter.
9 times out of 10, you go find a 13-year-old and they can fix it for you.
That's right.
So I think that's probably the first thing, is to look to see how we can educate our youth. And Digital Cayman is also working very closely with UCCI. I'm looking forward to my summer interns helping out with the conference preparation in October that we do at the Marriott. And I think that that's another big part, is to just reach out and be a part of the community. And we do have a membership drive with Digital Cayman coming up as well.
Do you have a date yet for that?
Yes, we do. So Thursday, July 15th at the National Gallery of the Cayman Islands at 5 o'clock. I believe there's some complimentary nibbles and a cash bar, but it's going to be the first of its kind in the Cayman Islands. Very exciting. And I'll leave this with you so you can put it in your news briefing. But we have both Digital Cayman and Cayman Tech City and the Blockchain Association have all teamed up, and they're producing a NFT art auction at the National Gallery. And it'll be a networking event, and hopefully we can drive some members to join the association, Digital Cayman, and come and learn about, what is an NFT.
What is an that's another story now. That's
no, it's a
date.
non-fungible asset. So the artwork that's going to be there that night from Dreddy, our fantastic Cayman artist.
I love Dreddy.
I know. Well, you have to come July 15th and check out the membership for Digital Cayman and support this great cause.
Nice. And in October, do you have a date for
Yeah, it's the 5th of October, and it's a Internet Security Cyber Governance conference at the Marriott. It'll be the 5th.
Do you have a keynote speaker? Or?
We do, and we're getting ready to announce that, but I do have a great legal mind who's coming back to the island, Mr. Duncan Card, talking about the implications of Internet data protection. And we have a few other great ones. Jason Butcher, who is on island, another fantastic local celebrity. And he's going to be there talking about some new innovative payment systems.
Polly, I looked up and I'm into overtime.
Uh-oh.
Thank you so much for popping by the studio this morning, Miss Polly
Pickering. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the midterm exam, Susan.
You're very welcome, she said. She's a managing director of Esure Limited. Well, I say thank you to our sponsors as well this morning. Cayman Insurance Center, Health City Cayman Islands, and Cayman Medical Supplies. Thanks to our guest, of course, Polly, and our listeners, our viewers on YouTube, and of course to our producer, Miss Susan Watson. Please have yourself a wonderful Thursday and enjoy the weekend when it comes. It's got to be here soon.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Spread the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the